All right, welcome back to KM6LYW Radio, the show about amateur radio or ham radio, reimagining radio in the information age. Hey, what is the best portable Parks or Summit antenna? What is the best antenna? This time on KM6LYW Radio. Yeah. Oop. There it is. All right, the Jimi Hendrix chord. Patent pending. Yeah, welcome back. Free bumper music. Hey, let's talk about antennas. So we're going to go outside today. Let's check it out. So people always ask me, Craig, what's the best HF antenna I can get? What's the best VHF antenna I can get? And I always answer their question with more questions. It's like, well, what are your requirements and what are your constraints? And question both of them. So requirements for a good antenna are the number of bands you want. This is particularly for HF, 20, 30, 40 meters. So do you need more than one band? What's your Q factor requirement? Do you want see the entire band as resonant, or maybe just the voice portion, or maybe just the data portion? Q factor is important. Antenna tuner. Are you going to drag along an antenna tuner to the mountain? I don't know. I usually don't use antenna tuners. What's the weight and portability requirements? Okay, can you drag out a whole bunch of coax? Are you car camping? Are you backpacking? Weight and portability. And also, is there going to be structure and trees in your area that you can leverage for your antenna systems? Or maybe you have to bring a painter's pole or something like that if you're in the middle of the desert. So those are the requirements that you need to ask yourself, and then and only then can you decide which antenna is going to be best for you. So for my purposes here, I want a wide band. I want to use the entire band for like 20 meters. I want voice and data, right? This is a channel about data mode. So I want a low Q factor. That's what that means. So I want resonance, low SWR across the entire band that I'm interested, 20 meters, 30 meters, and 40 meters. That's the other thing. Which bands do you want? Do you need multi-band? Do you just want 20 meters? For me, I want 20, 30, and 40. That's the essential stuff. So 20 meters for talking and data. 30 meters is data only. Do a lot of data stuff. That's actually an overlooked band because there's no one talking on 30. And then on 40 meters, you got a voice and data as well. I'm also going to assume I have some sort of structure in trees. I mean, I live here in California. There's trees everywhere, so I can probably hang something from a tree. I don't need any pole or structure. So, and the other thing is I don't have an antenna tuner. Well, I do, but I don't want to bring one. So I want full resonance. Not only does full resonance mean you don't need an antenna tuner, it also means you're receiving really well because you have a resonant antenna. So it's not just about SWR and being able to transmit without an antenna tuner. If you have a truly resonant antenna on the band you're interested in, your receive is going to be a lot better as well. So it's not always about transmitting. So those are the requirements, and that's what I want. Those are my requirements and my constraints. So there's a lot of antenna designs you can choose from. A dipole, link dipole, fan dipoles. Those are the center-fed, half-wave kind of things. There's off-center fed dipoles, which where you have a dipole, but the feed point's like on one side of it. It's kind of interesting. The G5RV is very popular. A doublet antenna, a double bazooka. You can get an N-fed antenna, which is interesting. Or you can get like a dipole that has traps or resonators on it. Each one of these has its own benefits and drawbacks. So off center fed, you're usually going to get multi-band, but you're probably going to need an antenna tuner, and you're going to have complicated balloon and probably RF on your coax. A G5RV, similar, actually requires some window line to get those up. An N-fed, again, we usually have common current issues and like a big old balun, like a 49-to-1 balun on there. That's probably the easiest one to deploy as an N-fed type of antenna. Another one is to get a traditional dipole and put traps or resonators at certain places so you can get multi-bands out of one dipole. That one's more interesting. In fact, I have a fan dipole here I've installed permanently where some of the legs actually have resonators, so I can get 80 and 30 on a single dipole, as long as I put resonators at exactly the point where the 30 terminators would be. So those are the alternatives. So having said that, if I want to do POTA, I want to do lightweight, let's say I'm backpacking, for me, for my requirements, a linked dipole is where it's at. We've got a bunch of examples of those here. A linked dipole is a antenna that looks exactly like this, and there is a current balun here. This can be like a 1-to-1 balun. The balun prevents RF from getting down onto your coax and down back into your radio. If you ever noticed, if you ever touched your coax and your SWR changes, that usually means you need a current balun, okay? And that evenly distributes power amongst these two legs and really gets all of your power into the antenna and effective radiated power. So the cool thing about this is like a regular dipole, half wave center fed, but you put these little breaks in the wire that have little hookups on them. So you put a break right here, and then you get 20-meter dipole. Break here and here, that's 20 meters. All right, you connect this with a little connector, and then you have a break here, and you have a 30-meter dipole. Okay, and then if all the connectors are connected, you have a 40-meter dipole. So this is cool. You got 3 bands, 1 dipole. The only downside to this, of course, is that you have to take the antenna down to reconnect and reconnect those links. So if you're constantly band hopping, link dipole is probably not the best bet. But for me, if I just want to get email and messages out, I'm usually on 30 meters, maybe 40, and if I want to talk, I'm on 20. So this meets all of my requirements, and this is what I use in the field is a linked dipole. Also, they can be really lightweight, and if you're doing QRP, they're really low gauge. In fact, the whole antenna can fit in a little pouch next to your QRP rig. So that's dipoles. So some of the benefits of dipoles, obviously, is you can get the NVIS. So if you lower your dipole, the radiation pattern shoots straight up and then bounces straight back down. So if you got some close contacts, NVIS is capable with the dipole. So that's kind of a cool one. There's a really low Q factor, so you can get the entire band. So when I have the link set up for 20, I get the entire band. I get under 1.5 to 1 for the entire band by using a center-fed half-wave dipole. It does assume I have some trees or something. I have some painter poles that I can use to get a dipole up there. Those are the benefits, and the drawbacks are, of course, you have the links. I don't know. I was actually looking at maybe radio-controlled links where you could press a button and the links would have relays built into them, and you could change the links just by pressing a button. That's extra credit. You guys figure that out. Let me know. Automated links, RF-controlled links. So you can change this. So that's the dipole. Let's look at some other options here for you guys if you don't have my exact requirements. So these don't meet my requirements for a variety of reasons. These are called ham sticks. These are base loaded. That means there's a coil along these. I'm sure you can see this. A coil that runs along here, and then some sort of whip on the end where you can actually adjust the length for resonance. These are pretty cool, but they don't meet my requirements because this coil, this base loading, actually increases the Q factor of your antenna. So that means if this is a 20 meter ham stick, it is actually, so this is a 40, you're only going to get, you can tune this for the upper half of the band or the lower half of the band, but not both. That's what base loading does to these. Sure, it makes the antenna shorter, which is great, but it really raises your Q factor, and you can't get the whole band, so you're not going to do voice and data without adjusting the length of the whip here, this little stinger attached to this. So even if you want to get the full band, you still have to do adjustments. So these I can't do vertical here. These are vertical. The other thing on these, if you think, well, hey, I don't need wire, if I'm using a vertical, well, you still do. You still need ground radials to stretch these out over the ground. Yeah, you want to get this up in the air a little bit. Another benefit of verticals is this takeoff angle is right at the horizon. So if you're really getting into DX stuff and you want to make far away contacts, these actually kind of come out ahead. So it's because of the takeoff angle. It shoots at the horizon, you go a little further. There's fewer skip zones if you're using a vertical. On the other hand, you can't do NVIS with these. I mean, I don't know, maybe you could do them horizontal. One thing I've done is I've taken, if I can do this without taking the camera out, you can get 2 of these and put them together, and then you have a center-fed dipole. Still has a high Q because both of these are base loaded, but this would allow you to lower this to get an NVIS signal. So that's something to consider, is maybe to get 2 of these ham sticks and create a center-fed half-wave dipole. So those are the pros and cons of the verticals. I don't use the verticals as much. If I do use those ham sticks, I use them in that configuration where they're horizontal, and they make some cool little hardware out of that to make sure you can get it 2 ham sticks sticking straight out, and you can raise them up and down. Can't really hang them from trees. I mean, I guess you could. So those are the ham sticks. I want to make sure we cover all of these things. So you still need the radio, so you still need a bunch of wire if you're using the ham sticks. So I've actually built 2 dipole antennas, one for QRP, that's going to be like 10 watts or less, and then another one for 100 watts or more, potentially up to 1500 watts, but I'm not really there yet. So this is what the center connector looks like for a center fed dipole. This is the link dipole. This is like 28 gauge wire. This is really lightweight. In fact, this entire antenna you could put in a a little baggie about this big. Super light. This is the feed point, but you can also get a current balloon, not a voltage balloon, but a current balloon, and hook this in. And remember I talked about getting rid of common mode currents and making sure we're evenly distributing current down each wire. This is what the balloon is. This is super lightweight. I don't know what the current rating is on this. I have to give credit to N9SAB, that's Sierra Alpha Bravo, on eBay. He makes these things, and then I end up modifying them. So he made like a 2040, and then I converted this into a 2030-40 by adding additional links. Current balloon, feed point, this is all the characteristic feed point impedance is about 50 ohms. That's what you want. It needs to be in a V shape to get that. So if this is 50 ohms, that's 75 ohms. You don't want this. You don't want a flat one. It's 75 ohms. You want 50 ohms, about a 90-degree angle here, maybe 100 degrees or so when you're building your dipole antenna. So this is the little guy, and he has links. So this is the end of the 20-meter link, and you check out what he's got here. He's got these cool clips, these spring clips. These take the tension, the load, to string these together, and then to add a leg, you just clip it on right here like this. See how we're linked together now? Now that's a strong connection. He's got some good glue, heat shrink tubing there, and this wire wraps around a little bit of a small paracord there to get a good grip. That is a solid connection. And then to go from 20 meters to 40 meters, you take these bullet connectors, brilliant bullet connectors, and just clip those together. And now my 20-meter leg is now a 30-meter leg because I added this additional length. Now I have to do this to the other side as well, and of course I'm going to have 6 links total for my tri-band linked dipole antenna. And you can use, if you're going really ultralight, you can use this really thin coax. Remember, for HF bands, you don't, the loss in the coax isn't severe like it is for VHF and UHF. So you can get away with this stuff as long as it's not too long. So 33 feet high is ideal. So I get about 33 feet of this stuff. So I'm operating directly under the dipole. So 33 feet is ideal for 20 meters, and if you go lower, you're going to get closer contacts. You go higher, you can get further out contacts. Anyways, you want to be about a half a wavelength off the ground for the band, your target band. That's what that's about. So this is the QRP version of this. Now if you want to go big, want to go 100 or 15 watts, this is the same antenna. It's just bigger. This has a current balloon also, not a voltage balloon. Radio Waves makes these with a nice big connector, really solid. This has hit the ground hard quite a few times. It's just fine. The link tensioners that I use, find one that's available here. You can just get some like cutting board, plastic cutting board, cut 4 holes in it, and you can weave your wires through the cutting board, and you'll get really strong tension here just because of the friction. And then you want a nice solid link connection. I use T connectors. You could use anything. You could use power poles if you wanted to, any kind of connector here. Again, extra credit here would be to have a little RF operated relay switch, so you wouldn't have to take down your antenna to hook these up. You guys figure that one out, let me know. That would be cool. That's the only downside to this link dipole, is you have to basically take it down to change bands. But if you're not a band hopper, that's cool. So this is the big heavy duty one. I do like to use like RG58 heavy duty dipole. I mean, if you're going big, just go big. This will have like 0 loss when it comes to the HF bands. This one I actually made for this is 20, I have all the links, you can see all the links here, for 20 40, no, 20, 30, 40, and I also have 75. So this is a super duper long one, and if I want 80 meters, I actually made a couple of clip-on whips I can put on the very ends and get 80 meters where the data band is. So 80 meters is where it's at if you want to get into data. So this one's super long, super robust, but it's heavy. It's heavy, okay? So I'm not going to backpack with this, you guys. It's just not going to happen. I will, however, carry this stuff. You can get these little clips. I get these on Amazon. Actually, I had to do Google image search to find these things. These are cheap, really strong. And then you can get these bullet connectors. Any, like, RC airplane, RC car shop will have these bullet connectors when you build your dipole. So that is the construction on the two different linked dipoles that I have. And of course, if you want to do POTA, it's not just about HF, it's VHF too. So you got a couple of options there given your requirements. If you got a tree to hang stuff from, you really can't beat the N9TAX. That's Tango Alpha X-Ray. N9TAX roll up J-pole antenna. This uses the window line here. It's a J-pole antenna. It comes down here and the end of the J is right there. I don't know if you can see it, but this resonates really well on 2 meters. And he's also got some traps here, some coax traps to get you up into UHF to some extent. And you're gonna have a lower SWR on UHF. So this is VHF and UHF. This is the entire antenna for VHF. Sling this into a tree, straighten her out, add some coax. You are in business. On 2 and 70 centimeters. Now, if you're car camping, this is what I'm using. This is an adjustable quarter wave ground plane. Okay, so it's like 3 ground radials here, and they're all adjustable. So I can get the 220, 2 meters. I can get it down. I think I can get it down to UHF if I make them short enough for 70 centimeters. So this is a quarter wave ground plane. It's going to need some sort of mounting structure. You might be able to hang that from a tree. I don't know how that's going to work, but I just basically have a pole and some coax. So this is my car camping POTA rig. And then if I'm backpacking in and I really need to get out, they actually make smaller versions of these too. The N9TAX stuff is fantastic. Ed Fong basically designed this antenna. He's got some other ones. They're also called Slim Jims. They make slimmer versions of these that use the 300 ohm twin lead, and those work really well, even lighter, but they're going to take a little less power. Also, on these, make sure you're always be choking ABC. Okay, at every feed point, make sure you have some sort of choke or balloon, or you're going to get hot RF on your coax. You don't want RF on your coax. Not just because it's like dangerous, but it just means you're not radiating. You want all of your RF to be on your antenna, not your coax. That way that signal's getting all the way out there. So we covered all these bands. We got every band you can think of here, except for maybe the super high frequencies, of course. But this is the POTA loadout. We got a car camping version, a heavy one, and then we've got the ultralight one from N9SAB with the cool connectors. So I am ready for POTA this summer and Parks on the Air, including backpack. I'm actually interested in the backpacking stuff. Grams count, right? Grams add up to ounces, which add up to pounds. Super ultralight, super QRP here for SOTA and POTA operations. And I know we're talking about antennas, but just a quick update. For rigs, we're looking at the ICOM 705, 10 watt to HF and VHF if you have a power supply. Really nice rig. Of course, it doesn't have any data modes in it, so you can't do PSK or any of the cool modes we talk about on this, but that's where the DigiPi comes in. This is an amateur radio data transceiver hotspot. Does every mode you can think of, and all you need is your tablet or your cell phone, and then you can drive your radio. You can do keyboard to keyboard, PSK 31, FTA, all of those modes. So this is kind of like a mini computer appliance that you hook up to your radio and then operate exclusively with a web browser over Wi-Fi. Of course, if you just want to do VHF, there's nothing wrong with one of these, a Baofeng and an AIOC connector, and you can hook this up to DigiPi and operate all data modes, including APRS, network, AX.25, all But you're a phone over Wi-Fi, all you really need is a web browser. So that's how I'm operating data modes. I do some voice here. Of course, that's where this really comes in handy. You can go big too. If you're car camping, go ahead and bring a 100-watt rig. And of course, bring the bigger antenna since you've got the weight capacity. So hey, thanks for hanging out with me today. This has been a lot of fun. I'm going to go back in the antenna testing grounds over here and add some more links to one of these little tiny 28 gauge guys, and maybe do a little more experimentation. Buy more wire than you think you're going to need, because you're going to be cutting this stuff up, and it's a lot of fun. So yeah, I'll be back there. Maybe I'll add, I don't know if I can get this out to 80 meters. I don't even know if this wire is strong enough, so I'll try that out. Patrons, thank you for patronizing the channel. Patrons get access to the DigiPi SD card image. I'll do this right. Which anything in the Patreon account gets you access to this. All data modes available to you over Wi-Fi. My name is Craig, amateur radio call sign Kilo Mike 6 Lima Yankee Whiskey. I'm in California, and I'm clear.